Hello guys, so in this video I will show you how to create an AWS account, and then we will create some EC2 instances on Amazon's Elastic MapReduce. We'll connect to it through SSH. And yeah, so first of all, I'm going to start PowerShell. It takes quite a while for PowerShell to start, so I don't know the reason why, so I'm just going to start it. So just if you are watching this using a Linux machine, you can just use your terminal to run these commands. Or if you're on Windows, you can install Git Bash, or you can just use PowerShell. So I'm just going to click this and just forget about it. And then I'll just type AWS console. And then create free account. So go ahead and fill this up and then click continue. And then I'll come back. So after clicking continue, this is the screen you have. So go ahead and fill this up also. So after filling up your personal information and clicking continue, you will have this screen where you need to enter your credit or debit card number. And don't worry, Amazon gives you some free tier limits, and you will not be charged for usage below the AWS free tier limit. So yeah, the exercise we are going to do is enough for so you will not be charged for this. So anyway, go ahead and add your debit or credit card number, and then click verify and add. Then you need to confirm your identity. So go ahead and enter your cell phone number, and then also enter the captcha you see over here. Then you will receive a 4-digit verification code from Amazon. So go ahead and enter it. So if your identity has been verified successfully, you can just click continue. And for this support plan, obviously we want the basic plan, which is free. So we have welcome to Amazon Web Services. So we just sign into the console. So enter your email address you use for the sign up, and then your password. Okay, so if your sign up is successful, you will see the AWS Management Console, where you can launch a virtual machine with EC2, or build a web app, or use virtual service. And when you go to the AWS services, you have a whole lot of services over here, from compute to blockchain to storage to databases, and also for machine learning and robotics. So yeah, we'll go through most of these services in the months to come. So for now, what we want to do is to create an EMR. So I'll just set that. Yeah. So it's a cluster of EC2 instances, so just a group of computers or virtual computers that we'll use to run our code in the cloud. So just click EMR. And yeah, I will go through most of these services on Saturday when we meet. So what we will do is to create cluster. So go ahead and give your cluster a name, and the instance type, and then the number of instances that you want. We just select 4 instances. So you have 1 master and then 3 core nodes. Okay. And okay, so before we even let me cancel that. Before we even create this, let's go back into your your IAM. So that's how you manage access to AWS resources. We are going to create a secret key and an ID. Usually when you sign up to AWS for the first time, you would like to make sure that all these are green. But because we are using this just for running and testing our codes, there is no need to do that. You can decide to, you can do that in your spare time, like activate MFA on your phone. And these are a bit advanced for you to know now. So you can just do this one if you want to. The first thing we want to do is to create an ID and a key for our users. So first, I'm going to add a user, and then probably say Martin, automatic access, and then yeah. So there are many ways by which you can access the AWS console. So you can access it through the SDK or through the command line or through this console. So I am creating users that can access our AWS console. So go ahead and give your user a custom password to use. And also go ahead and uncheck this one, require password reset. So next we click permissions. And yeah, I'm not going to add other user to the group, any group. I'm just going to click that and then click review. Oh, let's go and then create a group and then administrator access. So this user has access to everything. So administrator, so create group and then click that. Let's review create user. Yeah. So now our user has been given an access key and then a secret key. And then we're going to close this. But before, okay, let's just close that. Oh, let me use this. So before we close this, I'm going to copy this access key and then a secret key down. This is what we'll be using for to gain access to AWS. So I will send you two files. One is a configuration file and one is the Python code that we'll run. And in the configuration file, I want you to enter your access key and then your secret key. So just copy this. And then in dl.cfg, just paste in your access key and then also paste in your secret key. And then just save it. Okay, so we can close this now. Okay, so yeah, we have a user which has, so just in case you would want to also create the access key again, you can also create a new access key if you want to, and you can delete this one. So obviously after sending you this video, I'm going to delete my access key because you guys have seen it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and then create our EC2 instances. So just type EMR. So Elastic MapReduce is a web service that enables businesses, researchers, data analysts, and developers to easily and cost-effectively process vast amounts of data. So we don't have any clusters now, so we'll go ahead and create a cluster. And define cluster name, you can give it a name you want. So I'm just gonna call it, I'm just gonna leave it. And then for software configuration, I'm going to select Spark. And then there are many instance types. I'm just gonna leave it for M5X large. I'm gonna select 4. And then EC2 keeper. So this is sort of a private key that we'll use to connect to our EMR. Our access key and ID gives us access to use other AWS services whilst we are in this EMR instance. So first of all, we need to create an EC2 keeper. So first of all, let's just go to EC2 again. Yeah, it's a bit overwhelming. So what I will do is to create a keeper. Yeah, and then I'll go to create keeper. Keeper name, I'm just gonna call it Spark cluster. And then this is for use with OpenSSH. We will use it. And then I'll go to create keeper. So save the key in the same folder that you have your files. So I'm just going to put it in my desktop. And then all files. Then just save it there. Okay. So now we can go back to creating our EMR instance. I'm going to go to create cluster. I'm going to select 4. So now we have our keeper here, the Spark cluster. I'm going to select Spark and then roll. So then go to, and make sure everything has been selected here. Then I'll go to create cluster. Okay, so my cluster is starting, and I will come back when it's done. So our cluster is still starting, but now we've got a message saying that our account is currently being verified, and verification takes less than 2 hours. So yeah, when my account has been verified, I will come back. But you will get an email if your account is verified. And this only happens the first time you create an EMR or EC2 instance. So for subsequent instances, you would not get this message again. So just wait and then get that email before continuing. Okay, so our account has been verified, and then now our clusters are running. So so first, so now we will need to connect to our cluster using SSH. But what we'll do first is to change the security groups for the master node. So the master node is like a central node, And then we have 3 other nodes that the master node would use to distribute our tasks so that they can run. So the master node is like a control node. So but first we need to change our security groups for the master node because we cannot connect directly to this node through SSH. We have a firewall blocking it, so we need to allow access through this firewall. So I'm just going to click here and then go to security group and then go to yeah, this one, elastic map reduce master. And then you have all these inbound rules. So I'm just going to click edit inbound rules. And then I'm going to add rule. Add rule. So we want to be able to SSH. So this SSH which is on port 22, and we want to allow all incoming traffic. So we use this one. It means all. And then we'll add another one for HTTP. This one port 80 and also all incoming traffic. And then we'll save the rule. So we have inbound security group successfully modified on security, whatever. And then let's go back to our console. Okay, so now we want to SSH into our console. So we have connect to the master node using SSH and Mac and Linux. So because we are using PowerShell, we use the Mac and then the Linux option. So this is our something like the DNS of our master node. So we'll connect to our master node using this DNS. So let me just copy the whole thing. Yeah. Now, before we connect to this master node, however, we need to copy our files. That is our private key, and then also the file we are going to execute into our cluster so that we can run it on this cluster. And for that, we will use our PowerShell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd into my working directory. So I'm going to do cd, so it's on C, and then I'm on users. Then my files on desktop. Okay. So now I'm in my working directory. If I do ls, oh, I can see all my files. So I'm going to copy this dl.cfg file into my cluster and also my etl.py file also into my cluster. So how I can do that using the scp command. So before we can run our code on the cluster, we need to copy our code to the cluster. So we need to copy our Python file to the cluster and also copy our configuration file which contains our AWS access key and ID. And we can do that using the scp command. So first, I'll go ahead and then copy this SSH command which contains our DNS name, and then I'll just right click, and then I'll change the SSH to SCP. So make sure you are in your directory, the directory containing your files, and then just go ahead. I'll just delete that, and then else no. We still need a private key. And then first I will copy my etl.py file, and then first I'm copying to directory, so tilde, then that's now. Hopefully this will work. So click enter, and it says yeah, etl.py, so it has copied. And then we also copy our configuration file, which is dl, and then copied successfully. So now that we've copied our files, we can SSH into our cluster. So I'm just going to copy this again. Go here, SSH into our cluster. Let's put this. So just in case you get, they ask you, do you want to add these keys to this computer? Just type yes and then continue. And so we are successfully in our EMR cluster. So if I click ls, you can see our files we copied as dl.cfg and then our etl.py. So I'm just going to do a couple of things. So now I just want to run our etl.py. Our etl.py doesn't necessarily contain any code. It just has some imports and then find Spark and then import our Spark session. So this might run. So, or if I run this, all it will do is to just say print reading song data, writing songs to packet file, writing artist table to packet file, and all that. Yeah. So let's just go ahead and then run this file. And before we run this file, I just want to elevate my permissions. So I'm going to go ahead and do sudo su. So now I have administrative privileges. I do ls. Still have accounts. And then I'm just going to go and then update my EC2 instance in case there is a security patch. So I'm just going to do yum update and then y. So there are some security patches that need to be updated first. I'm just going to wait for this to finish and then I'll come back. So this, get to the top. So let's go ahead and run this Python code. Now in our cluster, we don't have this model, which is FindSpark. So I'm just going ahead and then install this FindSpark model. So just do pip install FindSpark. Okay, so I have successfully installed FindSpark. And then, yeah, so let's go ahead and then run our code. So to run our code, we just do Python So hopefully this will run etl.py, and then just click enter. So this will just print out the print statements we have in our Python file. Okay, so our file ran successfully. We have reading song data, writing, reading log, writing song plays the packet file. So to exit out of EMR, we just do Control D and then Control D again, and then we are out. So we can close PowerShell now. So the next thing we have to do, if you keep your EMR instance running, you're going to pay for it, right? And yeah, that would be expensive. So what we do is we have to terminate the EMR instance. It says, do you want to terminate this cluster? So yes, we'll terminate this cluster. And then now when we go to clusters, it says terminating. And then we also need to, because the EMR instance created some log files, we need to delete those log files. Otherwise, we will be paying for the storage of those log files. So we go to our S3 bucket. Our S3 is the storage service for Amazon. So we'll have to delete this bucket also. And then type the name of the bucket. So we just copy this to delete. Next. Okay. Now, one thing, let's go back to EMR. One thing I didn't talk about when I was creating our AWS account was the regions. Now, usually I use US East 1 because it's the oldest region, and so normally any AWS service that is released here first. So, and also if you create clusters and EC2 instances, they are all region specific. So if I were to change my region now, I will not see the cluster. For example, if I change my region to California, I will not see the cluster that was created in the North Virginia region. Right? No, it was the Ohio region. I will not see the cluster that was created in the Ohio region. Yeah. So yes, but for our tutorial, let's just use US East 1 region. So your assignment now is to go back, use the US East 1 region, recreate your recreate another user, give that user a key and then an ID, and then recreate your private key, that is your PEM file, connect to the cluster and the EMR cluster, and then yeah, so, or you can just leave it in whatever region you are. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, so yeah, this is all I wanted to show you, and I hope to See you or talk to you on Saturday. And yeah, on Saturday we will do more interesting stuff with Elastic MapReduce. So see you.